Childhood trauma pivots
with life. Oh, experiencing pain. Got it.
Yeah, there we go.
Good.
There we go.
Good. Run it back. Run it back.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm your host, Ava Ojo, and today I have a special pleasure to introduce Jazz.
Hi, everybody.
Today would be a great topic to talk about resilience. So, Jazz.
Ava.
Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, of course. As Ava said, we actually met in school. Mm-hmm. Ava was my interviewer for Golden Magazine. Shout out Golden Magazine.
Yeah.
My name's Jazz. I'm from Minnesota, born and raised. Aside from that, I went to the U of M in the J school. So with that, I'm a natural born talker.
Love that.
Natural born communicator. I love to talk. I'm just excited to get in today with all the things that there are to talk about around resilience, because I feel like there's like a plethora of things that we could talk about today regarding that. Yeah. And I'm really excited to get into that. But yes, that's a little bit about me. I'm sure you guys will learn a lot more about me as we talk today. We're going to really get into it.
Yes.
So
just first go into a little bit about defining resilience. To come to terms, resilience means bouncing back from tough times and learning to keep going even when things feel hard. It's about growing stronger through life's ups and downs and progressing into that growth space that we're all evolving to. How does resilience show up in your day-to-day life?
Getting up each and every day and like continuing to do the things that I need to do, even if I don't want to do them. And I think that's trying to have a positive outlook at life. Trusting that the energy that I'm putting out into the world is one day coming back to me, even if it doesn't feel like my reality in the moment. And so I feel like that is like what my resilience has taught me over time, is that no matter what comes my way and the obstacle, whether that be like an action that I have to do for the day, like getting up and going to work, or if there's something that's emotionally burdening me, knowing that I have the capacity to handle that situation as it comes to me, and that no matter what, I will see my way through it. Obviously, life ebbs and flows. Like one day you're at your 100% capacity, maybe one day you're at 120%, and then other days you feel like you're falling short and you're sitting at 40. But to me, if I try to live a life of like integrity and discipline and just like being a good person to those around me, I feel like what is destined for me one day will find its way, you know?
That's amazing. Okay. Did you guys listen to that? I was just in awe. I was like, keep going.
I'm like, going. It was going to have to tell me to shut up eventually.
No. Well, like, I want to note back on this whole thing about, because I think with resilience comes also the acceptance of what has happened to you. So, for example, I just flew back from LA and I was watching Alice in Wonderland.
Okay.
Through the looking glass.
Yeah, yes.
The theme of the movie was, okay, this whole thing about going back in the past and wanting to reverse things because of the pain that led to today. Yeah. So with acceptance and with someone who's going through like a hardship right now, what is the advice that you'd give them?
I would say number one thing is don't rush it. The more that you try to put pressure on something to make something happen, especially when it's extremely emotionally involved, to be quite very upfront with it, I feel like that's impossible to me.
And you've personally experienced that through grief, right?
An instance that I'm sure we'll talk about more is I have a huge example where this comes up to me in my life is through grief. Mm-hmm. And I think anyone else who knows this, who has been through grief before or has lost something or someone, whether that's like a real life loss or an ambiguous loss, I feel like the more pressure I put on myself to try to work through my grief, or not work through it, because I think it's great to go to therapy and do shadow work and things like that.
Yeah, that's the inner work.
You should totally put in the inner work.
Yeah.
But no matter, despite as much work I was putting in that department, if I wasn't making any movement, that is something that I can't rush. I feel like acceptance is like an ever-evolving thing in the way that there are different experiences, I think, as you're on your journey to acceptance that guide you along the way. And how I mean that is okay, so in my grief situation, when I'm going through that, immediately, I wanted to not think about it anymore. I didn't want to feel sad anymore. I didn't want to feel despair, all these emotions that do come with grief, anger. I wanted to not have that embodied in myself anymore, and I didn't want to feel those things because they're not fun things to feel.
No.
But for me, like, I joined grief groups, and I had talks with people, and I've connected with a lot of people through like my grief. And so I think for me, if I would have like cut myself short and been like, you know what, like, you're done thinking about this, you're over this, you need to move on, that would have prohibited me from like joining spaces like grief groups that I did join. And through those spaces, I've learned so much. But those things also took like a lot of time and dedication, you know, like those weren't things that like my grief happened. Next week I was in grief group, was only there for 3 weeks, and like stuff was solved. Like I've been actively in grief groups for 4.5 years now, 5 years.
Wow.
And it's like, it almost goes like semesterly. That's a good way to summarize it, or like how like the timelines work if you're like referring to like school even. Each semester is a different group of people, and each group brings different lessons, different experiences, and different ways of me to look at my grief as it's my own through the eyes of other people who are experiencing it. And so like, you know, if I was told myself I wanted to be done with grief, like after 2 weeks of experiencing it, think about all of the information and wisdom and guidance I would have cut myself short of over the last 5 years by then redirecting myself away from these groups. Some of these people in my groups, you know, lost their parents and siblings 12, 15 years ago, you know, and they are still to this day actively placing themselves in environments to help them come to acceptance with this. Those are things you can't rush. I think that you can do work that guides you on the right path, but I don't think it's something that is like you can wake up and decide, I'm done with this. When people wrong do us, I've been cheated on, like accepting like the fact that a partner could betray me like that. I think a lot of the times when we have to come to terms with acceptance, it's because things are happening outside of our control or are being done upon to us that make us like feel like we have no say or control in it. And that's why we have like this huge elephant in the room of, I need to tackle you eventually, and I need to come to terms with you now entering my space, whether that be your mental space or your physical space.
Yeah.
And so for me, I think that it can look very different, but in all those situations, I think time was the one thing that ruled it all for me. Like the fact that I got cheated on, you know, like did. That literally took time. Like that took
oh my gosh.
time, and I would be a liar today. Like I'd be lying to you if I said that probably affects me in ways that I'm not even tapped in with, you know?
Subconsciously, yeah.
Yeah, subconsciously. I know for a fact that there is. Like, I'd be a fool to say that it's not. I mean, people can say those things don't affect them, but any level of betray of trust, especially in like your developmental stages of life, teaches you a thing or two about love, or teaches you a thing or two about relationships. And you can get over them. Like, I can confidently say I'm over them, but to say that didn't affect me in a little, like one little way, shape, or form would be a lie. It's like, that was meant to happen. Like, no one's like, you're meant to be cheated on. Like, no one's gonna say that. Like, but the only thing that helped me come to terms with that and accept that was time. And my environment, you know, was being around people that I know aren't cheaters. Like, I'm not gonna keep friends around me that are cheaters, or people in my life that are being like sus in that way, because it's like, I don't want to be around somebody like that. I know that's like the most frustrating suggestion though. Like, I remember when I was starting to go through my grief journey, and everyone would say, it takes time. In time, you'll feel better. Yeah. In time, this won't hurt as much. And I was just like, what the fuck do you mean in time? I don't have time. I need it to be done today. Like, I need to feel better today. And just to make things clear, too, because I'm not perfect at all. It may look like it. No, just kidding. But there's so many things in my life that I still haven't come to terms with, or like acceptance with.
In this next segment of this episode, Jazz and I talk about our stories with losing our loved ones. 2 years ago, I didn't see the light. I lost like 4 loved ones.
Oh, wow. So you understand grief too.
Yeah. And like not being able to say goodbye, and saying goodbye over FaceTime. And so like what you talked about with like patience and time, this too shall pass, honestly helped me a lot. Yeah. I kept saying that mantra in my head. Yeah. Because am I really going to feel like this forever? Yeah. As you were saying, but it has to move through my body. Yeah. I have to feel it.
Yeah, you
Like,
have to.
This is what it is being alive in
Yeah.
a way, and it sucks. I know,
Yeah.
it sucks.
And in that way, pertaining to grief specifically, or was it like an accumulation of things that were going on that made you like feel like you couldn't see the light?
Trauma has a funny way of showing up. when you're developing, it's like, oh wow,
It's like your frontal lobe starting to develop, and I'm like, holy
Yeah.
fuck.
Why did I do that?
I need to go back to therapy.
Yes. It was a collection. It
Yeah.
was a collection of dark times, and it was triggered with being post-grad now.
Yeah.
Because of this feeling where it's like, oh, so I can just choose now where I want to live
Yeah.
and be.
It feels like an abyss almost. like black hole abyss. Like you're
Black
just like
hole.
you're maxing out your free will at this point. Like
No,
like
I know,
your
yeah.
free will is at premium at this point. Like you can really just do whatever. It's almost overwhelming with the amount of choice you have. You know, literally feels like a black hole. Like it's really like you can paint whatever picture you want. What tools do you have to get there? What
Yeah.
direction do you want to go? What do you want the picture to look like? It feels like a white canvas post grad. I agree.
I don't want pain to happen again. I've had come to the self-awareness that some of my choices were based off of that.
Yeah.
Just, I don't want to feel pain again.
Yeah.
Like even putting
Yeah.
myself out there for dating, I don't want to go through that
Yeah.
rejection process.
As two people who I feel like have experienced a lot of hurt in life and a lot of pain and stemming back from childhood trauma to very monumental experiences in life that kind of drove our character and our character development.
Pivots, yeah.
Yeah, huge pivots in life. As I was saying, with like things such as childhood trauma to these monumental experiences in life that are pivoting points, it is inevitable that we don't want to feel that again, especially as like adults. I feel like my support system isn't the same as when we were children, you know, like and this is different from every single person to person. Everyone grew up with different like homes.
gosh.
But you know, you
Yeah.
cry and a parent or some figure like comes for you immediately, or like you don't have the capacity to take care of yourself as a child, so someone is like taking care of your needs for you and like loving you and showing up for
gosh.
you. And I feel like as an adult, like so much of that diminishes, especially when we're in these like abyss periods of like post grad.
Yes,
And if you
on the
are
dot.
not in a relationship, you know, people are moving. I feel like there's a lot more expectation from your parents to live in adulthood where you're really navigating life on your own. And this is different for everyone. I'm kind of speaking based off my own experience now, but I feel like a huge lack of support in my life. I can log on to therapy, I can call up a friend, but it's like that support that is detrimental for your existence that I feel like I'm lacking at times. And that's really hard for me. That lack of in my life and that missing piece in my life is what navigates so much of my life decisions and so much of my relationship decisions, so much of my friendships, even career choices, and wanting to avoid hurt in that is like so evident. That's probably my biggest challenge that I've been dealing with for the last couple of years. Because, you know, as our frontal lobes are developing too, I didn't even really realize like this was something that was missing in my life until I did realize. And it's not one of those things where you wake up one moment and you're like, holy shit, I'm alone. I'm alone. It's like a series of things and like disappointments and
gosh.
like being alone in a lot of instances. And everyone says it's so good to be alone and you need to be independent. Like you need to be able to be alone for a night, you know, to journal. Like you know, like there are people who can't even, and not shading, but I'm saying there are individuals who like can't be alone for more than, you know, a day at a time. Like,
Yeah.
I don't mean alone in the physical being, but I mean alone in like just in the community sense.
Yeah.
And I'm going full circle with this one. It's like,
Yeah.
I feel like that's why I place such an emphasis or have such an attraction towards community. And any of my friends that know me and loved ones that know me know this is something I feel very passionately about. In America, I feel like we have a huge lack of community, at least in certain areas, or we're at the very least not a community-driven society, a very individualistic society that we live in. It's like if you're struggling, you grab yourself by the bootstraps and pick yourself up.
Toughen it out. Yeah.
You toughen it out. And it's like you almost get rewarded for how much you can take on your own and like turn it into something. But it's like,
Yeah.
think about how much more could be created with like deep level of community and
Seriously.
and support for one another. And I feel like that's why I'm so invested and drawn to my grief groups that I'm in.
Yeah.
Because it is insane to see the love and support that comes from that community with like no judgment, with zero judgment. And that's a support system I actually am very thankful I have, you know. But there's a certain level of support that I think you need from those close to you, because even in my grief group, like there's boundaries, you know, like we don't hang out outside of group, you know, like we are specifically there for that purpose and that purpose only. In life otherwise, I think that support as we get older diminishes, not for everybody but for some, and that's something that I feel like I'm really experiencing right now, and it makes navigating this post-grad time of life far more difficult. And then also drives decision making and relationships and friendships and things like that. And it's a fear of being alone, but not alone, you know, in your bedroom for the night, but alone in your existence. And I think my fear of that being alone stems from the fact of safety. I think mine is safety rooted. I can elaborate on that. It's like having the fear that like it's crazy because it's a battle of the intrusive thoughts, of course. You know, if I disappeared tomorrow, I'm pretty sure my friends would be sad. I think they would miss me, and I think that they'd be devastated. But it's like at times when you are in this depths of like no support and aloneness, it feels like no one sees you and they're not actually there with you. And like if you were to disappear, like they wouldn't notice, or it wouldn't like affect their day-to-day life as it would if you were a child. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think that's really hard because it's like, as people, we just want to feel connection, we want to feel seen, and we want to feel like depths of love, I would say. And like when you're not always experiencing that, I think it can make the human experience feel a little shallow at times. I'm sure you feel this even within your grief or like other areas of life, but feeling like so much weight in so many areas of life and having no one there to like carry it for you or carry it with you. No, I'm not expecting anyone to take on all of my stuff, but to like just, I've saw this and I've always lived by this. I don't need someone carry me through the things that I'm going through, but to have someone hold my hand and walk with me through it is like all I could ask for. I feel like aloneness, sometimes you can feel like no one actually knows what's going on in your head. Like they know what's going on in your day-to-day life, but do they actually know what's going on upstairs, and do they fully understand it in the way that you do?
Going back to Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah. Shout out Alice in Wonderland.
He was talking about we part things with everything.
Yeah.
Like in time. I think from my last loss, I've just been like, you know what? Every time I'm with the person, I'm just gonna do it like it's my last.
Yeah, I love that, Ava. No, Ava, that's awesome.
I might not ever see you again.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna make sure that I leave you in a better place than
when I found you. Yeah. And so Ava already knows this because I told her a bit about it in an interview that we had back in school. My freshman year of college, it was like the second week of school. Like 2 weeks prior to that, my mom had dropped me off. I am a first generation college student. And I also was one of the first people in my family to graduate from high school. Coming to college was like this huge monumental thing, not only for my life, but I think for my mom's life. 2 weeks in, you know, I meet my friends, life's going good. It's actually Black Friday. Like, do you remember Black Friday in college?
No, I don't.
Oh, because you transferred.
Yeah.
Okay. Black Friday is essentially hosted by Greek Life after all the sororities get their new bids, all the frats get their new bids. And it's like the first event of the school year where all the fraternities host like these massive parties, and everyone's dressed in all black. It's like a blackout theme.
I didn't even know this happened.
Yeah,
what
no,
the heck?
it's every year. It's like Black Friday.
Oh my gosh.
This was like my first night of college where it was like we were actually going out and we were like hitting the town. I'm out. I'm having the time of my life. I'm seeing all my friends I had met like within the first 2 weeks. And so we go back to a friend's dorm. It's pretty late. It's like 2 a.m. in the morning. And all of a sudden like my phone starts vibrating. And I'm like, that's weird. Like, who the hell is calling me at 2 a.m.? And so I look down and it's my grandma calling me. And it wasn't like super strange to me that she was calling me, but I also thought like, oh, it's probably like a butt dial. And so I don't answer it. I was just not in the headspace to like hop on the phone with my grandma at 2 a.m. and be like, what's up, grandma? And then all of a sudden my phone starts ringing again. And I look down and my dad's calling me. And I also just want to say my sisters were up visiting me in college at this point, and they're younger. So when I saw my dad was calling, I started to freak out because I'm like, oh my gosh, something happened to my sisters. Like, that's the only reason my dad would be calling me. I had, my mind went to the worst thought. So I immediately pick it up. I'm like, hello? And I step outside into the hallway. And my dad's just repeating, like, are you with people? Are you safe? Like, I need to know that you're, like, in a safe space. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? I think what he says next, my body definitely registered the news before my brain could. Because, like, next thing I know, I'm just, like, on the floor crying. What he says to me is, like, your mom and BJ have been in a really bad accident. Like, I'm coming to get you. And to preface, my mom is obviously my mom, who I am extremely, extremely, extremely close with. BJ was my stepdad. BJ came into my life when I was 2 years old, and him and my mom were together, till I was 18. He's like the first person who taught me how to like fish, like, just those monumental things that like a father teaches somebody. And then he says they're being airlifted to Rochester, Mayo, like the hospital. I remember being in that moment and thinking the worst, like, oh, everyone's really hurt. They're being airlifted. But nothing could prepare me for like the news that I was actually going to be receiving. And all of a sudden my phone starts ringing again. And I look down and it's my grandma calling me. And then I remember just being like, is BJ okay? Like, is BJ... like what's going on? And she's just silent on the other end of the phone, and she goes, I'm sorry, honey, like BJ died. And I remember just like bawling my eyes out. Like, literally the rest of that is just like a daze. We're driving, and in the whole way I'm just like a shell of a human. I remember just being like, okay, if BJ died, what condition is my mom in? And like, also like just the fact that he's gone now. And like when I left for college, he was leaving for work and he was gonna bring me up to school, but he had to go to work that day. I was at the top of the stairs when he was leaving and he was at the bottom, and we were all like going so chaotic to move. He's like, we didn't even give each other a hug because he's like, I'm gonna see you in 2 weeks, because I was supposed to get dinner with them that following weekend. And he's like, I'll see you at this dinner that we were having, like, I love you, goodbye. And like I didn't even get to give him a hug. And I was like, oh yeah, it's fine, like I'm gonna see you really soon. Like, you're late, I'm late, like I'll see you. To know that was my last interaction with him was just obviously going through my mind, because like you said, you don't know when the last day is gonna be with somebody that you love. So my dad picks me up, we get to the hospital. My mom's in ICU, she's in critical condition, and we go directly to her, and she is just a mess. So when the accident happened, they went off the road into like a cornfield. And that's the only reason my mom, survived at that point, was because she landed on a corn stalk. I tell people, like, she looked like a science experiment. She had wires and cords coming out of her brain, out of her chest, out of her arms. It was literally a horror scene. To shorten it in a way, a lot happens over the next couple of weeks. She's in ICU for a long time. She falls into a coma for 8 months. Throughout that time, I would say one of the hardest things for me, from obviously like missing her and her not being like in my life, every 2 or 3 months while she was in her coma, I would be brought into a room, like an Oval Office styled room with 10 to 12 doctors, and they sit me down. I'm 18 years old, right? Like, I am literally a child still at this point. They would tell me, you need to decide if you want to keep your mom alive or if you want to let her go. The choice is yours. We don't think she's going to make it. And if she does make it, we don't think she's going to live a substantial life. And so that's up to you what you want to decide. That's literally the hardest question someone can ask you, is to play God. Like, that's not my job to play God. The thing about my mom is like one of the most resilient, loyal. She will do anything for anyone. She never gives up on anyone. I could tell you a million stories about my mom that explain her to a T in that regard of just being this loyal, unconditional, loving person. To me, that's what led a lot of my decision making throughout that time, and I chose to not let her go. And they would then pressure me and be like, we think you need to let her go. And I was like, I cannot do that. My mom never gives up on anybody. Like, I am not gonna give up on her. And so I repeatedly said no, and I was very well aware of what that could mean long term to like her condition of living. And so 8 months pass by and she eventually starts to wake up. And this is something that is the enraging part of it, is that the doctors didn't think she was going to make it, right? So when it came to the surgeries that were being done on her, the therapies that were being done on her, whether it been occupational, physical, speech, all of these things that are like rehabilitating her to life, they significantly dropped the ball. Like there's a lot of things post-accident that we didn't anticipate, and then a lot of things post-accident that have been like moments of wins. My mom lives in a group home too. She lives in a 24/7 care facility home. So when she came to out of her coma, we also found out she had like a wide range of injuries that we weren't able to know about while she was in her coma. Like she's deaf now. She lost like over 50 to 75% of her vision. So she has one eye that she can see relatively well out of. She has this speech thing that's called dysarthria. Can't walk anymore. She's in a wheelchair. Also because of rehabilitation things. She's just in a very fragile state. On the other side of things, I've learned to communicate with her. And this is like a blessing of technology. She can text so well all the time. Like she literally lives on her iPhone. I'm not kidding. Like it is her means of communication, which I'm so thankful for. The main reason why I want to give context was because we were talking about it. But I think this really ties in to one of the first questions you asked me about acceptance and how that takes time. Because as you guys know, what the story that I just shared, so much confusion was a result of that accident. There's like two forms of loss. And there's regular real loss, like, you know, someone who left the earth, as my stepdad did. And then there's another form of loss called ambiguous loss. And I found out about ambiguous loss, ambiguous grief. What I really want to explain here is, yes, my mom is still alive today. And I am so beyond grateful that she's alive, because we have worked so hard for this moment, and she still see her kids. She can still experience the things in life that the reason I fought for her to stay alive was for her to experience these things. But nonetheless, I have lost my mom. I have lost someone who can care for me and support me. And so it felt like when I was grieving my stepdad, I was also heavily grieving my mom, because, and even though my mom did wake up, she woke up a completely different person, you know? For those who don't know much about brain injuries, but they really can change the way a person communicates, the way they regulate their emotions, anything. I feel like we've swapped roles, where I feel like, you know, she was the caretaker of me for the first 18 years of my life. And then after the accident, I then like took on that role as though it feels like a mother to her, because I'm very much so the one who regulates her emotions. I'm the one who cares for her physically, like whether that be like giving her baths or doing her hair, helping her brush her teeth. When I went to answer your question, like, do things ever get better, or do things ever get good? And my answer to that was that you just become more familiar with like the new reality of what it is. Like I still cry all the time about like, I just wish I like had a mom, you know? And so then these next 6 years following, like really it felt like age to me, like a 50-year-old woman trapped inside like a 24-year-old woman's body. And that says a lot, because I think the things I have learned in the last few years have dramatically changed the trajectory of my life, of who I want to be. I'm so under-influenced now, I should say, or uninfluenced now. Yeah. I think in my first 18 years, I had a ton of influence that was happening from the people that are raising you, as anyone else would feel.
Yeah.
And then when those two people are removed from your life and you have no more parental influence or like that support influence, it really makes you look around on like what everyone else's influences are. Things are like continually happening. It's hard to see them.
The pattern, yeah.
It's hard to see patterns, and it's hard to see things clearly when you're like in the depths of them.
Yeah.
But when you are like removed from them and you can walk 50 feet away and then look at it as like a whole picture, you can really see things clearly, and you can see like how much being in those depths were like influencing you and just spinning you around in every which way.
Yeah.
And so being away from that like has been like a blank canvas. Felt just thrown out into this world. with no further direction, and it was really up to me to decide like who I wanted to be. And like, so when I say like I have learned some like extremely detrimental things from this, like it's like more than, oh, I've learned how to do my taxes on my own, or I've learned how to figure out car insurance on my own. It's like I have learned so much about who I am by being removed from the environment that I once was. Is this fun? Fuck no. Like, does it suck? Hell yeah, it sucks so bad. But is that like what my reality is, and that I have to like either show up or let it pummel me? And then yeah, that's what I have to do, and so that's what I've done.
When I think about the last hug, the last time like I spoke to the people that I've lost, I look at those moments and I really just cherish them. It's like I'm 50 feet away, as you were saying, and looking at that moment in time and being like, that's a beautiful moment for me to take in.
And to carry with you
for as long as
you have your memory of it,
as I can. Right. So as we are wrapping up, what do you want to leave our listeners to take away from this conversation that we had today?
Given any circumstance that you're faced with, is practicing gratitude. Gratitude is the only thing that has kept me from sinking. And there's many times in my life where I felt like I was sinking, and like I felt like I was sinking fast. Gratitude is like, you say you're underwater and you're sinking below, and you look up. Like, gratitude are like little life vests or little life rafters that you can grab onto, because there are so many things to be grateful for in life if you're looking for it. And, you know, when you're drowning, you're looking for anything, anything to save you. And so the more life vests and life rafts you can see above you, the longer you're going to survive, and the longer like you're going to stay afloat. I think about the day of the accident, and things could have looked so different for me that day. And I'm grateful for that, because I've seen my mom able to smile again since that moment. I've seen her be able to smirk, and I've heard more I love yous than I would have if things would have been different. And does that mean I died? Does that mean I died? I am grateful. That's it.